Morning.
Morning.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Happy Sunday. We've made it.
All
Got to spend the rest of the morning putting the house back together.
So
Can't wait.
Your barbecue friends in the chat, have you?
Yeah, Lee came. Morning, mate. We'll go through the. Well, there's only. I think we've got six people have joined this morning. Yeah, it was good. It was good, like I said a minute ago. To you, really good. Nice to get everybody together. Hopefully, like I say, these meets can become more frequent. I think they're good for people. You say your missus' birthday was well.
Yeah, been good. Yeah, been busy, but it's been
good. Good. Right then, so this morning we are, and you're going to have to excuse me because I cannot pronounce it or remember what the terminology was again. So there's a typical thick fug up here in North. We've called it nature or nurture because that was the easiest way for me to get my head around what you were trying to explain. So do you want to just kick off with your sort of concept that you wanted to talk about, and then I'll obviously call out everybody who made the effort to join us.
Yeah, so this is just basically something that it's more of a philosophical debate, I guess, this morning, really, than anything concrete. But this is about anthropogenic reefing, is what I'm going to call it. So this is the anthropomorphizing of our hobby, which humans do with everything, basically. And in the concept of reefing, I would say it's things like when we name our fish. So basically what we're doing is projecting our sort of human thoughts and concepts onto something which is not human. It's simply it, really. And so you hear, obviously lots of people naming their fish, but lots of people just make comments. I made a list, actually, of they say things like, I want a natural slice of the ocean in my house or in my tank. I want a peaceful and tranquil tank. It's a living work of art. And then if you actually look at those statements and then look at what we do, they're in basically direct conflict with each other, really, because we say we want a natural looking reef, and yet, I mean, it's quite, I guess it's slightly controversial, but I don't think any reef tank in a hobbyist concept is natural.
No,
really, not if you want to be, very pedantic and say that and a reef in the nature looks like this. I mean, because if you go diving on a reef, I've never seen a reef out in the wild that looks like any reef tank I've ever seen. Just, I mean, I can appreciate it. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is we want something that's in our mind looks like a natural reef, but the reality of it is from a nature point of view, they don't nothing like a natural reef. And it just, but people always say it, and then, it's like people when they go, I want just a very nice, tranquil tank, but that's not nature, is it? Nature, even if you think you've got a tranquil tank, you haven't, because everything in that tank wants to kill its neighbor because it wants the real estate, wants the space, the fish don't get on. So there's all of these sort of contradictions in terms of this is what we want and this is what we got. So I just thought it'd be an interesting conversation. See what other people think about that.
Definitely. Right, well, talking to other people, let's see who's made the effort to join us this Sunday morning. Morning, John Boy. Thanks for joining us. Nice to see you, mate. Hope you've had a good weekend so far. Morning, Critical. Thanks again. Lee, thanks for joining us, mate. Hope you're well. Hope you got home all right. Rennie's Reef, thanks for joining us. Morning. Liam, happy Sunday, buddy. And UK 120. Thanks for joining us, mate. So 8 in the house. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks for joining.
Hopefully a few more will join us. So a few comments here. We just wrap up what happened yesterday. So yes, we had 10 of us here yesterday for a bit of a, like I say, Reefers barbecue. Christian at Signature Frags made the effort to come over, which was really nice. So picked his brain, lots of knowledge. I was always a little bit nervous because somebody like that coming to my house to look at the tank and then critique it.
I was going to say, that is.
I was a bit nervous. I'm complete. I'll put my hands up. I was, but to be fair, it was really complimentary. He spotted sort of like a he called it like a dead band of flow, basically. Sort of, it's hard to explained it's about sort of 2/3 of the tank. Well, no, it's about halfway actually. To be fair,
Right.
a few frags that have not as there's probably extension, but not as fluffy as others. And he was suggesting it was pretty much down to flow. It's the way the rockscape is sort of designed, and where the power heads are. The rockscape is almost blocking the flow from getting to the front of the corals.
Okay, right.
Because my flow goes from the back to the front because I don't want the power. Well, I'm saying that, but also on that side because I don't want power heads on that side.
On the end.
On the end, I have to sort of create this circular motion, and by doing that, it's coming down from the power ends. It's coming down and then under, but this band in the middle is not getting the flow. If that makes any sense to people, it's kind of getting missed. So I need to come up. I've got another WAV, and I've got a few Jebao sort of eye socket, whatever you want to call them, power heads that I might try, just to play around with it. But but yeah, he did the typical Christian. Yeah, I want a piece of that. I'll have a piece of that. I'll have a piece of that. I'll have a piece of that. So yeah, I must have got some decent. I've got some decent things. So it was very nice, and yeah, it was nice for him to make the effort, and so it was for everybody else.
Yeah. Cool.
Mark, thanks for joining us, mate. Happy Sunday to you.
Okay.
Mark B. And one and only Dave. Hope you, mate. Hope you're all right. Now you're walking around Aldi shopping. Lovely. Yeah. Well, my kitchen looks like most kitchens on Boxing Day morning after Christmas Day. So yeah, I've got to sort that out at some point before the missus goes nuts. Right then. So, how are we going to kick off this conversation? Do you think? Do you want to come up with one of your sort of phrases or comments that people have made and sort of elaborate on that? Do you think, or how do you want to do it?
Well, what about if we go on to what I call bonsai tanks?
Okay. Bonsai tank. Let me get a picture while you're talking. Then is it a certain reef? Is it mixed or?
Well, they're normally predominantly SPS, but I mean they can be mixed. But so these are these reefs which you see all over Insta, basically, where no colony would be bigger than your fist. Most of them are smaller, and there's just multiple small colonies. Well, I call them frags personally.
So you mean like mine?
No, but yours is growing out.
Yeah, mine. Well, the idea is mine will grow out and I'll move stuff on. But that's.
But lots of people don't allow them to grow out, do they? They continually trim them, so they just have a multitude of tiny, small colonies, and they're dotted all over the. I mean, to me, it looks completely unnatural.
That one?
I mean, I didn't. Yeah, pretty much.
Is that a good example? Right. Okay.
Yeah. So to me, I mean, a lot of people will love it, and I just want to put it out there. I am not trying to say anyone's doing anything wrong.
The right or wrong way of doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is just a discussion about different ways of reefing and different perceptions. And so I would look at that, and I would say that is complete. I mean, it's bare bottom as well, but that doesn't look natural in any sense of the word to me. Nothing about that tank looks natural. Some people will love that. It's like Japanese gardens, isn't it? Some people love them. Some people hate them. You know, but that whole tank is a complete So that is an anthropological tank to me. I look at that and go, the guy who runs that tank is manipulating everything to make it look exactly the way he wants it. So there's that's 100% nurture, and to me, there's no nature. Nothing's been left to its own devices. Everything's been manipulated. And also down to the fact that he's probably picking his coral placements based on some color chart where you shouldn't have colors clashing with each other, and so that's the point I'm making. So I think some people reef like that, but I can't look at that tank and go, I wouldn't enjoy it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it.
See, I like that.
Yeah, most people will. But I don't like that amount of different colonies, because that's just, to me, that just don't look natural.
Right, I've got you. Okay.
I think I
get where you're coming from.
Yeah, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm sure most people would look at that and go, that's absolutely glorious.
I mean, you'd say it's dog shit.
No, I would not. Do not put words in my mouth. I'm just saying, for my personal taste, that's not what I'm aiming to get. There's nothing wrong with the tank. Obviously, it's beautiful. The corals are lovely, but that's the overall aesthetic is not something I look at and go, yeah, that's amazing. But this just makes this hobby great, though, isn't it? Because two people look at the same tank. One person thinks that's absolutely stunning, and another person goes, eh.
Right, yeah. I think, to be fair, one of the first tanks that I saw with SPS was the KZ ones, the pastel colours and the colour combinations that they were achieving.
Yeah.
I always wanted a tank like that. I mean, I've never really achieved it, to be fair. But I always wanted one like it. But no, I think that's that for me. Not to off piece too much. That's where you've got to be careful that you stick to your guns. I mean, I've probably put too many frags in here, and there will get to a point where I'll need to move them on, simply because I get more of a kick out of something growing into a larger colony than I would, like you said earlier, lots of mini colonies.
Yeah, I do. But I wonder if we're kind of sitting here because we have the luxuries of having larger tanks, so we can afford to have a 2-foot colony, and it won't be the whole tank. Some people tank will be 2 foot, so they'd have one colony here. But so I mean, it's just a personal preference. But I mean, I've listened to people talk about when they place corals using like a color chart, or there's something you can go with, this color doesn't go with that color, and I'm like, that's very extreme, isn't it, to do that? I mean, do you do that?
I've done it, yeah.
I mean, that's such an extreme manipulation. It's like I was saying when we were having this conversation about what we're going to talk about. On a real leaf, when that planular lava comes down and starts to settle on a rock, it doesn't start to put his roots down, kind of start growing and go, oh shit, my neighbour's green, I can't live here, and up sticks and go somewhere else.
Yeah, but at the same token, if you are reefing, you put, I mean, majority of the time people put obviously corals based on flow, light, where they want to be. Yeah. But they're not going to put, nobody in their right minds, well, I don't think they would, are going to put 20 green corals all together and put a purple one at the far end. People aren't going to want to mix it up for that.
Yeah.
Again, for aesthetics over nature, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so I think it's just that thing when people keep going, I'm on a natural reef. I don't think anyone does. That's the point.
Yeah.
I think if you had a slice of natural reef, your tank would just look rubbish. Like to our mind's eye. From what we visually want to see is something. I mean, the reason you get in this hobby initially, when anyone walks into an LFS with marine section in it, is the colours. Yes, definitely. That's what it is, isn't it? It's all fish as well. Fish as well. Yeah, absolutely stunning. And that's what. And so I think what everyone, when they say I want a slice of nature, is what they actually mean is they want something that is absolutely smothered in vibrant colours and looking vibrant. And that is not nature, unfortunately. Yeah. Well, not on the scale we can do it anyway. Yeah. Morning, Paul. Thanks for joining us, mate. Paul does the colour scheme. Yeah, I think a lot makes corals pop, makes the tank look better. I did it with the fish. I did. Did you really? I did, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I did, but probably not knowing. Sort of like subconsciously, I did it because these fish they've been in 3 separate systems, and there's no. When they all went into this in stages, I didn't buy any additional fish because I didn't want to bring anything outside into one of the systems. But yeah, when I was picking fish, I wouldn't have just gone, I want 20 orange, light tail antheas, and that's it. I was always going to go, well, we need a bit of purple, or we need a bit of blue, so to break up the orange. Wow. So then you've got purple tang, or you've got blue chrome. Yeah, but I think it adds to that. I think it adds to the aesthetics. I really do. But, it's interesting because, I mean, that wouldn't enter my head, like the colour of the fish. I mean, obviously, I look at the fish, and if I like the fish, I go, I like the fish. But I'd never go, I'm not going to buy that fish because I've already got too many of that colour in my tank. It wouldn't even enter my head. I'd just go, I like that fish because I like it. I like the behaviour of the fish. It's like the other thing about the corals is a lot of the corals I like, I'm not really bothered about the colour. I like the morphology of them. I like the way the structure that they form when they grow. So
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. And that, when it comes to placement, that is where I think my mind takes over, is where what it's going to look like in, when it hopefully grows out 6 to 12 months or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to be placing, and again, you might disagree, but you don't want to be placing corals like stags or something that's going to grow upright at the front of your tank, because it's going to hide everything else. So they go at the back, and obviously they want a lot more light anyway, so they tend to go at the back under it and get a lot more light from it. So,
so the other thing that this brings me into is, I think probably in the next decade or so, a lot of people will be in a position to spawn coral in their own tanks.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be achievable for quite a large number of hobbyists. So then you come into that. So are you going to apply those same sort of set of rules that you've implied on your corals when you buy frags to naturally occurring spawning corals in a tank? So are you going to start chiseling them off your rock if they spawn and settle out in your tank? Because that opens up a whole new world of reefing, doesn't it? If you're going to start going, I don't want that.
Don't want that there.
Yeah, I don't want that there. Yeah, you're going to start.
I suppose it would. It sounds like a daft analogy, but you could probably relate it as when people unfortunately end up with aptasia and they just randomly appear. It could probably end up being something similar, couldn't it?
You're just putting them over the
Yeah.
Because I guess if you're successful with a spawn in your tank, I mean, you could literally smother your tank in a single species of coral within one spawning event. You just go, my whole tank is now millies or whatever. Yeah.
Have you started yours yet? Just on a side note, sorry.
No, not yet. I mean, I'm still setting the tank up. Yeah, I'm just next week. I think I'm going to build the cabinet around it to black it out. That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
What's Paul saying? I love green corals better than brown. Yeah. I would have to agree.
Yeah.
I would have to agree.
Yeah. The only worst colour is bleached white.
Yeah. My tank is natural as Jay's tan. Yeah. Yeah. I think. I could probably do a poll if we want to try and ask the audience, because I'm a bit of practice here. I'm curious to see how many people choose. So you're saying that. So if I ask the question, do people choose corals or fish based on colour or placement? Which do you think's the more?
Yeah, could ask that. Yeah. Yeah, I think
if I can do it while we're talking.
I would think most people would choose colour initially when they pick corals.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, yeah.
Let's see if I can do it while I'm talking to you. So anyway, what's the next one? Let's carry on, because otherwise we're going to end up with awkward pauses. What was the next sort of topic you wanted to talk about, or phrase that people come out with? What do you think is another one worth talking about?
Yeah, I think the other probably big one is when people say I want a peaceful, tranquil tank, and they don't want any, they want all their fish to live happily together, and they don't
kill each other.
They don't want to see any aggression in their tank at all, because it takes away from that tranquil. One that really limits what you can put in your tank, I guess, if you don't want any fish to ever show any aggression to another fish, because the thing is, that's natural behaviour. I mean, I don't mean a fish killing another fish, obviously, in any tank, but some aggression is prevalent in nearly all tanks. I think probably most people either won't see it, or it happens when they're not looking at the tank, maybe. But I think it's nigh impossible to get a tank where it's 100% harmony all the time, because once again, that's not how nature works. And I wonder how people try and mitigate that to an extent where they don't see any aggression at all in their tank. I mean, I've got 17 tanks in my tank. I do see aggression, but I don't see it at a level where I sit there going, oh my God, well, other than my convict tank. But, for me, I would rather have that amount of tanks and have that sort of hierarchy and the aggression that goes with it at times than not have the tanks in the tank.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a trade-off for me. So, but I don't know whether there's people out there who would just go, I'd never have tangs in my tank because I don't want to see any aggression. I don't know how extreme people are with that, but I've seen a lot of people say that they won't put certain fish in their tank because they want no aggression in the tank. And I just think, wow, that's a big commitment to not have something that you probably quite like, just on the off chance that it might be a bit of a bully fish.
Yeah.
So there's that.
True.
So I don't know how people mitigate that. I mean, tangs are very popular, aren't they? I mean, I'm thinking of tangs because that's probably top of my head. You know, one of the most common fish in the hobby, which is reasonably aggressive if you have a few in a tank. But how you getting on that pole? You're right.
I've got to ask. I'm gonna do it in a second. Like I said, a bit of practice for me. You've got to have three. I think you've got to have three sort of outcomes. You can't just have yes or no, which sounds a bit daft because you just think it'd be a closed question. Do you or don't you?
Okay.
But you've got to have three options. So it won't let me. It won't let me do it without putting them with a third one. So I've just put: do you choose corals, fish based on colour? Yes, no. I just put never given it a thought.
Right.
Let's have a look. I need to put something.
Yeah, at least right. At least summed up the convict tanks are dickheads. You got one in your tank?
I have, and to be fair, it behaves itself.
Fish. Yeah, they do.
It does behave itself.
Yeah,
it does.
Is yours quite young
though? Yeah, probably. I'm trying to think what it was.
Yeah, because mine was a model citizen for about 2 to 3 years, and then it obviously matured and just turned into a total twat. So,
right. I don't know why it won't let me do this, Paul. That's annoying. Anyway,
no.
I think the majority of people say they pick things based on colour. Then I think you'll find that.
Yeah, I would imagine so. To be honest, I mean that is the main pull into the hobby at the beginning, isn't it? The colours, especially if you're transitioning from freshwater, which is essentially, if you have a planted tank, it's green, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just.
Cool.
I mean, freshwater fish are nice, but the colours are much more subtle than the vibrancy of the reef fish and the reef itself. So
I'm trying to think of the comments that people or things that people expect. I mean, you're going to have coral warfare as well, aren't you, in terms of real estate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately, it happens. So
yeah, and I think that scales with like the soft corals release those alliopathic chemicals, don't they? Which, you know, a lot of people put out with carbon and stuff, but you can't physically see them, can you?
No.
I don't know how big that is in an SPS tank, to be honest. I don't think they're quite as aggressive, like chemically wise.
Never had them in a large tank, to be fair. Never had them. I mean, I've ended up with like xenia that's coming on a frag on my old 8-footer, and that was a bit annoying because that started to spread everywhere. But getting that out was a bit of an eye. And the not the GSP, the blue pollock. You know which one I mean? Like not a clove. It's that really it might be really small ones, and they literally spread like wildfire on your rock. Yeah.
Some of those. I found mushrooms to be a bit like that.
Yeah,
I put the orange mushrooms in a tank, and they were just a nightmare. I used to rip them off and just throw them out my window.
Find a fish you like that will eat your corals. But what do you mean? So I think, is he meaning, do we think people buy fish and then don't think it's going to eat corals, or hoping it doesn't? Or I think that's where it's coming from.
That's a spectrum thing, isn't it? With because I had orange spot filefish, which are generally regarded as obligate coralvores, even though mine fed on frozen and stuff. And then I guess you go
flame angel.
I was going to say, and then you go down to some of the angel fish, which are kind of people say are kind of reef safe, and I think a lot of it's down to the individual fish as well. and possibly just what you've got in your tank.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like you've got a copper band in your tank with a massive clam. I've got a copper band in my tank with massive clams. Never touched. Well, I don't think he has.
No, he's had some curiosity over the smaller clam. And I say curiosity. He's nipped at it a couple of times and it's shut, obviously, very quickly. But I almost kind of think it was something on the clam, on the outer shell, not actually the clam, not the mantle on the meat itself, because he's left it since. He's left it since. But I watched the video the other day, and I think it was about the abyss, and obviously they've got a great fish selection, and they were talking about people wanting certain personalities in fish, which I thought was a bit.
Oh, that's another classic example. Yeah. I mean, I think more than any other fish, when we look at like fish perches and having a connection with them, you look at the puffer fish, like the dog puffer fish.
Yeah.
Another one you like hand feed, and they got those kind of puppy looking eyes, haven't they? I mean, that is, you know, that's a classic example of being anthropomorphic, really.
Yeah.
But I wonder if people draw up a fish list literally based on the colours they want in their tank then. And you're saying you did that?
No, I didn't decide. No, I'm not. That's sad.
It's like you just list the colours of the rainbow and then just go, I have two of those.
No.
And then find a fish that's not that colour.
No, listen, I'm going to defend myself here. I feel like I'm a bit under attack. No, I'd already got the majority of fish in different. Well, put it this way: I was tempted to put a group of Evans Eye amphias in because I wanted to add the colour pink. So that summarises.
It does. Yeah.
But I decided not to because of just the dynamics of the tank and the fish I've got at the minute. I didn't want to plus QT in it. I didn't want to risk anything. So
okay. Yeah.
And the other thing as well is that go on.
You're going to forego that pink in your tank then with the fish completely, or you're going to come back to it at some point?
I'm just going to leave it.
Right.
I'm just going to leave it because everything's settled. And the other thing that I'm sort of, and I hope I get there, obviously, because it's reefing, so I'm sure there'll be ups and downs, but I'm sort of picturing it in 2-3 years' time when things have grown out a lot more. There'll be less real estate. And I know you could probably say, well, there's probably more nooks and crannies for, your amphias to hide in, but I don't think there'll be as much. I don't think there'll be as much free swimming space. So I do think that will create a lot more aggravation if I have too many fishing. So that's just my sort of thoughts on it. I might be wrong, but
I mean, now you've said it, it does look lacking in pink, that tank.
See.
I just
anyway.
I'm sitting there thinking how I actually made my fish choices, because do you know what I probably, because I haven't thought about it, and now you've made me question myself. I've probably done exactly the same. I've just done it subconsciously.
Well, if you're listening, please comment if you chose your fish based on colour. Please, I'm curious to know, because I can't do the poll because, like I say, I need a bit more practice on that. But we'll be curious to know if the majority. We've got 8 of us viewing, so there's 10 opinions. So if you are watching, please give us a yes, I do, or no, I don't, so we can at least add it up that way. Because
I suppose I probably did, because I'm the same as everyone else. I want lots of beautiful colour in the tank, and so even because obviously I put the carburet antheas in mine, which are that lovely sort of pinky orangey colour. John
says he did. John's put yes. Anybody else?
It does surprise me. I'm learning here, because I wouldn't have dreamt that people did that.
Well, my missus is always like even with the fags, she's like, you need yellow, or you need purple, or you need pink. So that will literally start me off. Now, again, with corals, they can change colour, as we know, and some fish to an extent, as juvenile and adult, etc. Rennie's saying yes. Oh, John, also personality. So John takes him out on a date first, clearly, gets to know him.
Gets to know. Yeah.
Dear.
He's wining and dining his fish. That's good, John.
Yeah, I think he's means probably aggression there in terms of, you know. I think you've got to think about that, haven't you? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be waking up to things.
Yeah, it's like everything. No, it's on a it's on a continual spectrum, isn't it? You know, you're not going to put a massive grouper in your tank, are you? But
no.
I guess people's cut-off points
or a big bamboo shark like Liam.
Yes, that's compulsive wise.
It was. Most of my fish choice was from working shops, seeing the same fish every day, then tend to fall for this fish to take them home.
Yeah, that's an advantage of working in a shop, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
You probably get the chance to make better choices.
Don't think I've ever thought about the colour when buying a fish. Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, thank you. There's two of us then.
So it's two. So it's
two against everyone else.
2-1 at the minute. Two for yes, I choose colour. One no. Come on, there's got to be somebody else can give us a comment. Anyway, so it's 2-1. We'll leave that debate throughout the rest of the rest of the morning. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? The colour.
I was just saying, so that's the colour, and then obviously the aggression is the other thing. You know, do you not buy a fish that you really like because of the off chance it might be slightly aggressive in your tank? I mean, I think.
Well, I wanted to put a gem tang in when I put this together, and I just decided I didn't want to put it was too risky putting another zebra morcel in, so I didn't. So, because I've got the yellow and I've got the purple, so I thought, and the yellow and the purple didn't always get on years ago,
right.
but they've always been, but they've sort of, because they're very similar sizes, and it was in a smaller tank. Very similar in size, and it was a smaller tank, and the purple dominated the yellow, which is kind of to be expected in my previous system. But then when I put them in here, I just thought if I had a third one, I really am, testing it. So decided not to.
I mean, I've never really understood why you'd want a purple and a gem, because they are very similar fish.
You think?
Like,
well, colour.
But they're basically the same colour.
Well, one's black with white spots and one's purple with a yellow tail. So,
gem tanks are bluey purple and they're not black.
Okay.
I mean, if you're looking, very close, you can tell the difference. You're sitting in your lounge there, 10 foot away from the tank. They could be almost interchangeable. I think they're too similar. For me, they're too. That's why I never bought a purple tank, because I thought I got a gem tank. They're too. So I'm contradicting myself now. They're too similar in colour. Yeah.
I rest my case. Anyway.
That's it. Yeah. Right. I'm off.
Same Scorpus and gem tank. I like Scorpus. I think it's underrated. I do.
Some of them are gorgeous.
I do.
Yeah, some of them are not. But
so, are you quietly or slightly coming around to the fact that you chose a lot of your fish based on colour, then? Even though you said, even though that's the topic of this morning, people making decisions.
Well, I mean, that's why it's interesting to have these talks, because I think, if I'm honest with myself, I've done that subconsciously. I haven't been aware of it. I haven't walked in and gone, I need a yellow fish, but my head's probably gone, you haven't got anything yellow in the tank. So subconsciously I've gone, break up
the colour.
I'll get a bunch of yellow tanks, or I'll buy a nice lovely yellow millie or something. But I mean, it's not, I've never physically sat down and made a list of anything, even a fish list, really. I never sat down. I mean, everyone tells you should, but I never sat. I knew I wanted to. Basically, I wanted an Achilles tang and a Lanardi Ras, which are two that I really wanted. Yeah. And then everything else, I already had like a gem tang from another tank and a convict tang. Like you inherit fish from previous tanks, don't you? But yeah, but even I've never sat down with anything that I've put in the tank and gone, oh, I'll make a list of what I'd like and try and imagine how it would look. I guess I'm more of a sort of a reactionary kind of reefer, than a
But I think you've got to have that. I think you've got to have that sort of long-term, dream, vision, whatever you want to call it, idea in terms of what you want it to look like. Otherwise, you might end up with a tank you're not happy with, and then what you're gonna do? Start all over again because you've put something where you didn't want it to be, and it's based out, or you've put fish in that
Yeah, well, I guess that's where we
should
differ,
not put.
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't plan a thing. I really,
Right, okay.
I never. When I started to my sort of planning is, short-term planning. As I come to each problem, I address it. I don't think where am I going to be. Obviously, I put my aquascape down the kind of middle and the spine of the tank because I knew the corals would grow out. But that's like the maximum amount of thought I've put into any long-term goals with the tank. Really, I didn't sort of go right. There's an empty tank. Where do I want it to be in 5 years? Not into my head.
Right, okay.
I just go, I want an Achilles tank. I want an Nardi Ras. I want to teach myself how to QT fish. So the first 2 years was just that obsession of getting fish, QTing them, introducing them. And then now I've got all the fish. Now I'm slowly moving into corals, looking at spawning. So I kind of evolved slowly like that. I never at any point did I sit back and go, right, in 5 years, I want this tank to have big stakes down that part of it and massive montes over here. And never entered my head. And if I don't, basically, if I don't like how my tank looks with the corals, I'll just smash the corals off and replace them. I don't have the same kind of connection with corals that I do with the fish. I mean, that convict tank's a total dick, but I bought that convict tank. It's one of the oldest fish I've got, and I feel obliged to keep it. I know some.
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Yeah, a lot of people just catch it and out it. Just go get rid of it. But I think, well, I bought it, so I have a responsibility.
The responsibility. Yeah.
So
it's settled. It's settled as well, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So
I'm a bit sad like that. I'm a bit sad like that because when I see people doing tank breakdowns and they're selling the fish off, I'm like, those fish have been together. Just and I'm like, it's like really sad, and I was thinking, do these fish just go like, see you later, Dave? Been nice swimming with you for the last 5 years or so.
You read some of those, like some of the threads on Ultimate Reef where people shut down, like a 12-foot tank and they've had fish in there for 15 years or something. You go, oh, that would absolutely break my heart.
Exactly. I
think I'm just very soft when it comes to things like that. What's Paul saying?
No, I'd have to agree. Paul's saying, I would only put a yellow tang into a tank up to 6 foot. I had a Regal and Vampire in a 5 foot. Broke my heart when they got too big, and I had to move on. Yeah, so very similar. Yeah.
I mean, that's another common statement, isn't it? Get a Regal tang and a 4-foot tank or whatever, and then move it on when it's outgrown. And I just think, but if you've nurtured that fish for 5-6 years till it's got to a size, surely you've got some connection to it, and you're just not going to just punt it off to some stranger dead within a week because you don't know how good they are at keeping fish or anything. I don't know.
I think there are a lot of people that I've seen, again, on social media, not really many that I know, but I've seen a lot of posts where people have been influenced from their children because of the whole Finding Nemo story. The dory and the clownfish. So, you've got let's just say a normal average, family, that decide we're going to go get a marine tank. And they go entry level, let's say, and don't go all bells and whistles, but basic stuff. And before you know it, we've got, can we have a dory? And there's a little dory in a LFS about an inch big or an inch and a half, coming quite small, pair of clownfish. And I'm just curious to know how many of those sort of scenarios end up where people upgrade or give them away. But if they make it,
And the other thing is, it's difficult to get rid of big fish. It's a very small market, isn't it?
Same as a big tank, actually. Ironically, because I know the minute I paid for this, that it's not the same as driving a brand new car off a forecourt. Everything's second hand, you lose value.
I know what you mean.
Like your point with the big fish, big tank, and even other big equipment, skimmer, calcium rats, or whatever.
It's a tiny market, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a very small market. Yeah, so if you've got an 8-inch soul hole tank or something, how many people are going to want to put that in their tank?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not really, especially over in the UK.
Yeah. I'm like that with my Mandrill. I had it 6 to 8 years, brought it up from little skinny runs. Well, you do get emotionally attached with fish, I think. You've got to have a little. You've got to have some sort of connection. Otherwise, I kind of question why people are doing it.
This reminds me of what Jay was saying about his students when he took them to the fish and chip shop, and they go in. I thought you like fish. So we all kind of cherry pick the bits we want and ignore obviously tucking into your cod.
I'm sure my fox. Yes, I forgot John is on about talking about moving his fox face on. Skegness Aquarium.
What, is he actually doing that, or is that just?
I think so. No, I think he is. I think he is doing it. I think he's taking it. It's too big for his tank. Yeah.
That's what was his name? Aaron's Aquarium did with his. Was that a soul hole that he took to?
Oh, right.
He took it to some massive public aquarium up your way somewhere. Is it called the Abyss or something?
No, the Deep in Hull.
The Deep. That's it. Yeah, I think he took it there, didn't he? But I mean, that's probably, to be fair, that's probably your only option when you get a very big fish, isn't it? Really, because even though I've got a big tank, I like to get them small and watch them grow. I think most people do, don't they? So other than my Achilles, it just happened to come in the size he did, and I bought that because I thought, who else is going to buy a fish that size and put it in a decent sized tank? Personally, I don't think they should bring in fish adults like that. Really, I think they should try and get the juveniles in because the trouble is, especially like for example, those kiddies, they're monogamous fish, so they pair up for life in the wild, or according to the paper. So you've removed a breeding adult basically from the population. It's
I get that.
You know what I mean? Rather than if you take, chances are if you take some juveniles, a lot of those juveniles wouldn't have reached adulthood anyway. So,
how many times have you been in a fish shop and somebody's gone, "Oh, I can't have that fish. It's too small for my tank." It's always too big, isn't it? So you kind of feel sorry that it's the it's the one that's been, like you're saying, it's left on its own in a tank that's probably, let's be honest, again. I don't think some of the I've seen some tanks in shops, and the size of the fish for the tank is just way out of proportion. The fish is way too big for that tank. You can't even turn around. And the poor thing has to stay there for as long as it is, and then they slash the price, and they almost try and give it away just to move it on because it's taking up real estate in the shop.
Yeah, because they can't put anything else in there.
They can't put anything in there. It's on the shelf, and they want to put something else on the shelf.
They have to go up to turn around. They're so big.
I know.
But I mean, I think there's something else that I find about this hobby is because I go diving and obviously I see a lot of these fish in the wild. Every tank is a small tank. It don't matter how big the tank is. But from the 90% of the fish we keep, our tanks are small. Because fish range along the reef all day long. They swim for kilometers. So. I just think people don't fully understand just how confined our fish are, and I think it must affect the behaviour of a fish a lot of the time. Especially, I find in certain fish like wrasse, when they go into the corner and they do that weird thing and they swim up the
my chorus does that. Not every now and again. Every now and again she'll do that.
And I look at it going, it's almost like the fish is going, I don't understand why I can't keep swimming. So so these are all anthropogenic things, because this is all of us projecting. I mean, that rat's probably clueless. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
But but in our heads we go, oh, is that because he wants to swim a bit further? But,
Talking about rats for a second, what I do find quite intriguing about Maya Corris is, and I need to do this, record the time. But how do they know? I know your lights are coming down, and you're changing. The lights are changing in terms of brightness, whatever. But does it go to bed at this? Because my rat, obviously, I've got substrate. It buries into it. Does it go to the bed at the same time? When does it know it's bedtime?
Oh yeah, that's the eternal rhythm. So I mean, all nature is that. I mean, it is amazing, isn't it? It's like if you bring a fish in from Australia, like a wrasse that burrows in the sand, it'll take it a week or two to get back on, like, to what we call UK time. So they wake up, they come out of the sand halfway through the night because he thinks it should be dawn. And obviously, it's pitch black. Weird. Yeah. I've got to do the same with the coral spawning the same, isn't it? I've got to change the light sequence and everything and then shift it so many hours, so that, because obviously they spawn in the middle of the night normally. So I need to change it so when they think it's the middle of the night, it's going to be sort of 10 in the morning my time. So I haven't got to go up in the middle of the night.
Right.
So I've got to change their internal clock, basically.
Johnny's sending it, moving it on. I thought it was right. He jumped out, knocked over my jump guard, and landed 6 foot away.
Blimey. Okay. Oh, so he has to give it. Oh, it's good that they've taken it early.
Yeah, it is.
That is good.
What's Lee saying? I'm saying, love the fish, and hard to find homes for big fish. And why have a big tank? Give the fish a bigger home. Yeah. I mean, it's great if you can do it, but it's a tiny percentage of reefers, isn't it? But, Talking about fish diving and hurting themselves, my female clown is dicing with my clam again, and she's got another 2 sort of lesions in a dorsal fin, and it's where is she? She's behind me. Yeah, she's one of the hardiest fish I've ever had, because she's got some right war wounds from fighting with other fish. But she's trying to host the clam, and what she does is every now and again she'll go a little bit too far, and if she tickles them, tickles. I need to be careful here. So it's only what we're on 10 to 11. The clam will shut, and it's not.
That's been caught in the shell.
Caught in the clam, in the shell. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And she'll be wearing an eye patch soon if she carries on. Anyway. Got Critical saying my fox face goes to where it sleeps every night just after 9. I sometimes do a late feed and it doesn't even come out.
And they have very kind of rigid habitat, don't they? Habits, some of these fish. I mean, we're talking about dory, obviously. Regal tangs are weird fish, aren't they? They do some very strange things.
Well, they even go in. And one of mine years ago used to go in between rocks, literally like horizontal.
Yeah, mine do.
And wedge itself.
Yeah,
have you? Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's that classic. First time I saw it, I thought it was dead under the rock. You just go, what the hell? Yeah, and it does it. And if I ever, when I blow like the rocks off in my tank with a turkey baster, and it just gets all that sediment up into the water, it obviously doesn't. And they both wedge themselves into the same rock. It's hilarious. It's like I've got a pair, and there's really only room for one, but they both try and wedge themselves in. And they form a wedge. I need to try and take a picture of it at some point. But because they can't get in, all they got is they're like the last third under the rock, and then they get wedged.
So your Regals are spooning on a nightly basis.
Yeah, and they're trying to hide, and it's just a hopeless, because 2/3 of their body are not even under the rock.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. They're a strange fish. They do weird things, those regal tangs.
What else have you got on your list of phrases? Keep glancing to your side, so you must have written a list. What else have you got on there?
Or naming fish is another one.
Naming fish. Okay.
I've never named a fish. I've never called a fish Dave or whatever. But I know a lot of people do that. So have you named fish?
Not all. Clyde is obviously my copper band because we talked about him on the Friday night stream. I just randomly plucked a name. So we've got Clive. Other than Clive, there's only Clive that's got a name. No. Does anybody else in the comments? Does anybody else name their fish? I'd be curious to know. I mean, literally, Clive was.
I wonder if like people with a tank with kids, probably.
Yeah, I think kids. I think you will do if you've got a young family. Or I think it's to keep getting the kids sort of involved, isn't it? Get them interested in it. Get them.
But
engaging.
Yeah, I've never named a fish.
I was reading some of the comments. Yeah, I think people do, but I think it tends to be for aggression. So that one's like you said earlier. That one's a D-head, or that one's an arse, or that one's But I don't think people will go, oh, it's a purple tank, so it's called Percy or whatever.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Anyway, I like your Sharif flame angel.
Clap the flame angel.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Yeah, so I think that's probably. I mean, I guess the other thing is, when we run these tanks, everyone says hands out your tank.
Right.
I'm just trying to think. I reckon I'll probably put my hand in the tank every day for some reason or another. Yeah.
Yeah, but yours is big enough you could swim in it, Rob. I mean,
Yeah. For my size tank, I guess, because I've got that many power reds and that many corals, and there's always something. Most mornings I'll go in, and there'll be a chunk of a coral being smashed off in the night, or the bloody urchin. I mean, my urchin's like it's massive now, my urchin, and it constantly just pulls up. I've tried to stick some stuff onto the bottom of the tank to grow across. Yeah, and I think it's really well stuck, and then I come in the next day and the urchin's wearing it as a hat. So it's always. I'm just trying to think when I went in. Are you reading the comments?
I am, sorry. Just coming back to that original question. My ex named them all. 3 have names. Mrs. Doyle, my cleaner ass from Father Teth.
Mrs. Doyle, yeah. That's quite funny.
Don't know his clowns are Anton Deck. Purple Tang is Beauty, and Foxface was Roger, and the Red Fire Fish is Casper.
Wow. Oh, that's a full complement of names there.
Morning, Rich. Hope you're well, mate. My cough band is called Robert after my mum's brother. She named it when I bought it, and since mum's passed away, that name stayed. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, that's got some emotional attachment. Yeah. Well, it's quite common then. People to name their fish. Yeah. So you've just got the one, Clive.
Just got Clive the copper band. Other than that, yeah. I mean, guys, my missus, Sally the sailfish. Don't ask me. Don't ask me why.
I'm surprised you tried to gloss over that.
Well, I took the mick out of her because she was like, that's Sally the sailfish, because she got sailfin, sorry, because she always wanted a sailfin. And I was like, well, we may as well call the crow Mr. Minions, then, haven't we? It's just like, where do we draw a line on this? Yeah. Where do we draw a line on this? So, I do know what? Fair play. Yeah. I do know my clams. Yes, that was peer pressure, though, and I gave into it. Otherwise, I'd just say, that's a big dresser and that's a smaller dresser. That's it.
So what are the clams called?
Claudia and Tuppence.
Right.
Let's not go there.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Right. So, I think we've been able to establish this morning that the majority of people will pick, most people will pick corals and fish on colour, even though you're admitting that you did it and didn't realise you were doing it at the time. So
yeah. I mean, I think that's true. You either do it consciously or subconsciously.
Yeah.
But we're all looking for a tank with lots of diverse colour in it. Really, I think.
Do you not think that there's do you not think there's a link though between people picking fish or coral, especially fish, based on colour and having that sort of, I suppose, like putting that effort in and really thinking about it, that links them then to sort of want to name them. Do you think? Because they've had some form of attachment to them.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I mean, I guess on that spectrum of reefing, some people are down the ends where they manipulate everything, basically, from their rockscape to their placement to their colour, the matching of the colours, all of that, to what I would consider myself down the other end, who just kind of goes in an NFS, goes, that looks interesting, and then I go back and I go, I'll stick it there. Because I give no thought whatsoever, really, to colour matching and I'm sure a lot of people will come and look at my tank and go, yeah, it looks crap.
No, I don't think so.
Well, in terms of if they like that aesthetic of having loads of different colours and lots of colonies smothered all over, you know, as opposed to, I'd rather have less. Got in a weird box. Is that called dickhead? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of names I've got to some of my fish. It's earned by behaviour more than charming me. You know, the fish that don't cause any hag, you know, they're just the fish. But yeah, the odd one, like dickhead, the convict tang is probably the most named fish I've got.
Yeah. So, on a bit of a side note, people who what things do you think people do when we're interfering with the tank that you think we should sort of let, as I titled it, let nature sort of do its thing? Do you think that is like when you're placing corals or when you've got an issue with your tank? Maybe when do you think you should sort of intervene?
Well, I mean, I guess one of the absolute classics would be when you buy a BTA or something else that can move on its own volition. And a bubble tip. Everyone does the same. They go, right, I want it there. I want it there. You put it there, and then the next day it's buggered off to somewhere else.
And it's stung everything.
And it's put a trail of carnage across the tank, and then most of the time it's going to go in the worst place, either next to the power head. I mean, it's just a matter of time before it gets blended, or it's going to go up by the weir and just either block it or get sucked into it. And
I was talking about names, moving it. No, I want you there. No, it goes there. Exactly. Yeah. No, that's good. That's a good example. That is. We're talking about that.
Yeah, go on.
I was talking about that yesterday because I always wanted a I don't know, Adonis carpet, and then a blue one, like
yeah, they're gorgeous.
Or is it gorgeous? But yeah, it's just like you say, you put it. I would, especially with me having the corals I got, I'd really be worried about where it was going to end up and what effects it was going to have on the chemistry of the water. You know, especially if you've got lots of power heads, you know, it's just,
I mean, I had a kind of a low lagoon tank with mangroves and bubble tips and those horrible mushrooms. So I didn't really have any SPS in here. And I mean, the other thing about bubble tips is they split and just multiply. I started with one, and then I think within under a year I had 20. And I was constantly taking them down to the LFS to move them on. But because of obviously the way we have our tank set up with the power heads in the tank, a couple of them got blended. They're just difficult to keep in a reef tank. You know, one of them blocked the weir, so they did all the things you don't want them to do. I gave up. I gave up moving them. I was just letting them go where they wanted to be.
Let them go where they wanted to go.
Yeah.
I think the best ones are when there's just tanks on their own, aren't they? But it's just
because I didn't have any. I had no SPS in that tank whatsoever. I had the roots of the mangroves, so basically they didn't really, other than going in a power head or blocking the weir, they had kind of free range. But I think that's the ideal scenario for those sort of things. You know, I'd love a carpet anemone. I think they look absolutely stunning, but there's no way I'd put one in my mixed reef. because it's one, it's going to probably eat half your fish,
Yeah.
and it's just going to cause carnage. Yeah.
Definitely.
But that's an example of, you know, hands in the tank constantly, because even if it doesn't stay where you want it, you don't want it in the power head and you don't want it in the weir, do you? So you have to constantly intervene.
Yeah. Same with when you're trying to put a frag or a coral somewhere. I mean, the green stag behind me that Tim gave me there.
Yeah.
I had to. It wouldn't go where I wanted it to go, and obviously it didn't move like a fish or like an enemy. But quite often you have to sort of say it's not meant to be. It doesnn want to go there. So I ended up having to putty it and a piece of pipe, 20mm pipe in, and literally create like a rod, like a 45-degree angle, because I wanted it where it is now and where it's spaced out. Fortunately, I didn't want it, you know, just because of the size of it, as it was when Tim gave it me, bless him. There were only a few areas in the rockscape where I could put it, because it was a certain size. You have to. So the point I'm trying to make here is quite often you'll have, you know, you're trying to put your coral down or a frag down, and because you've either got a lot of flow or you sort of dictates where you put it is what I'm saying, not where you want to put it.
So I think the take home message for me is we spend
Morning, Haley.
Oh, Haley, yeah. We spend absolute fortunes on our parameters, being obsessed with keeping them in a range, which is kind of natural seawater ranges, really. Most people do, don't they? So we obsess about keeping our tanks natural in terms of natural seawater parameters, and then we do the exact opposite with actually the stuff we have in our tank, like where we place our corals, how we choose our fish. So that there's a real kind of dichotomy between, you know, our water parameters have got to be absolutely natural, close to the natural seawater, and then the way we create our reef in our tank is absolutely anthropogenic. It's all about how I want it to look and what I want in there, where I want it to be.
Something you said the other week when we were talking about the cutina of the fish, that got me thinking, which I think is another valid point on this sort of topic, is when I think the majority of reefers, including myself, even though again I did know better, it's just you sort of subconsciously get absorbed into this thought process that the reef is just one big matter of water where all the fish and all the corals of the world live together happily ever after. And I just think there's something in that where everybody thinks that all these fish in all these tanks in LFS have all come out the same whatever reef together. Some of them, like you said, have never seen each other before, you know, because they come from different.
I'm saying about the Solhole tank, which is essentially kind of Red Sea around the Persia Gulf, and you know, things like the Achilles tank. You're never going to see each other in the wild. Then you put them in a tank, and you do expect them to just, you know, behave naturally towards each other like they've, you know, had a millennia together. But I mean, nobody does bio tanks really in the hobby, do they? Very few. You know, I think I could probably count on one hand. Everyone just ends up, even if you start with good intentions, everyone just ends up going, my tank is the result of what I wanted, basically. So I think so in terms, you know, the water parameters are nature, the actual contents of the tank is nurture, really. It's what we manipulate it to our mind's eye of what we expect our reef to look like,
and heavily influenced, I'd say, from other people's tanks.
Absolutely. Because I mean, you know, I like tank, like I really like the AAC display tank. That tank, massive colonies. There's not a million types of different corals that are only 3 or 4 inches big. But when you stare into that tank for, you know, half hour or so, you just pick up, you know, little subtle things in there which you can't see initially because the main corals are that big. Whereas, you know, a bonsai tank,
I couldn't agree more. It's saying the whole, "Ooh, that's nice," takes over in your head.
Yeah.
from a decision making. Yeah, that's when you come home with something like a shark, like Liam did. You know.
Yeah, that's quite extreme.
It was so funny that day. Anyway, I'd have loved to have been a fly on the wall when he opened the box. Honestly,
Wow.
he sent us in the group chat a picture or video of his kids and he was opening it, and the face of his missus.
I bet they went mad. Go, what? Yeah, that is...
Oh dear. John, I agree.
No, you're right. No.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't have a better bottom tank. I've had one before. Not my cup of tea, but again, each their own.
Yeah, but a lot of reefs don't have sand.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't see it. You know, they don't have a, you know, you don't have a sandy bottom on a reef. It's rock and corals growing on it. So you might have bits in between, but you don't really see sand on a full reef.
We also buy equipment to sort of help us facilitate what a reef would be, i.e. flow, don't we? And lighting, which again isn't natural. So what's your thoughts on that? You've dived, you've seen, you know, the depth, the light, the flow in certain areas where natural corals grow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, generally on a reef, most of the good stuff's at about 15 meters and above.
Right.
It drops off a lot when you get, you know, if you drop it down to 30s, you don't generally see the really nice, colourful stuff. You normally drop down because you're looking out into the blue for sharks. That's normally why you go that deep. Which is why even if you snorkel, you get to see really good reefs. You know, if you snorkel in the Red Sea and stuff, you'll get to see a lot of really good stuff. Yeah, I mean, the flows on a reef can be just insane. You know, you can just get moved 30 foot in a couple of seconds with the swell.
Wow.
You can't replicate that in a tank, really.
No.
So yeah, I mean, it's kind of artificial, but I don't know. So I don't know if the coral, you know, we said this when we talked about the equipment, you know, does a fish care what pump you run as long as it's got some flow in the tank? And I often think the same about the corals. All right, maybe it's not the same as the flow you get in the actual reef, where it may be unidirectional for 12 hours and then it may switch. You know what I mean? Pivot 180 degrees and then go for the next 12 hours. And we don't do that in our tanks, really. We have this whole turbulent, because we want everything mixed. And partly the reason for that is not only because we want to get the corals hit in all directions so they don't grow, you know, like a tree on a blown hillside, but also we're trying to get all the nutrients and fish poo up into the water column so we can get it out of the tank. So obviously that doesn't happen on a real reef either, does it?
No.
So it's kind of very artificial, but that's all we've got to play with. You can't really. There's no other. You know, I mean, I suppose if you had the money, you could have a reef tank where you could have 12 hours of flow going from left to right, and then completely switch it and have it going from left to right,
right to right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know how you do that successfully, but at the end of the day, they grow, don't they? And they grow very successfully. You know, even under the LED lights. I mean, there's a lot of debate whether they are correct spectrum, broad enough spectrum, whether UV's lacking, but they do grow corals. I mean, I don't know whether we're just selecting for corals that grow well under those conditions. I mean, I'd imagine we have done over the last 20 or 30 years where we constantly farmed and fragged particular strains of coral. And we've, you know, it's a bit like evolution, isn't it, really? We probably just chucked by the wayside the ones that don't do well.
I think that also makes me think about, when you're saying that makes me think about when you get a coral or you buy a frag and people say it wants a lot of light. Well, what is a lot of light? Or what is a lot of flow? You know, how do you sort of quantify that almost?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things in this hobby, you know, it's like this whole thing about temperature, isn't it? You know, everyone just goes 25.
Yeah.
And you just think, in such a diverse, dynamic environment as a reef, there's never going to be one figure that
Oh, exactly. Well, you heard me ranting about it on Friday night.
Yeah,
I need to stop.
Yeah, but I'm, you know, I mean, bizarrely, I went through my dive logs again for the spawning tank, because obviously I've got to follow the sea temperatures, because mine are going to be Indo corals. So and there's a website which basically gives you, it's amazing, it gives you all the data you need. So it gives you all the sunset, sunrise, moonset, moonrise data, and it gives you the sea surface temperatures. And
wow,
I mean, they are so high to what most people run their tanks. And I know it is specifically for spawning, but the thing is, I'm going to get the millies. These are the mariculture ones that come from Bali, so they're grown on, you know, the racks that you see in the pictures.
Yeah,
they just they're basically metal racks,
yeah,
and they just put them out.
Yeah.
But that is the temperatures they're growing at.
Yeah.
So they are sitting. I mean, I think the lowest that water gets is 27. That's the lowest, and then it goes right up into the 29s. Sometimes it hits the 30s. And they are all of those corals that we import, that we buy in our LFS, and then we go.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a big difference in temperature.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously they live and grow in it, but I probably, because the other thing is obviously all these animals are, all the metabolic functions in them are driven by temperature. So the speed of all those reactions are driven by temperature as well, isn't it? You know, same with the fish. So obviously it just happens slower at slower temperatures. So when people go, you know, what's the best way to increase my coral growth? Surely one of the easiest ways is to run them at a warmer temperature. Because if you're providing everything they need in terms of all the alkalinity, carbonates, pH, if all those parameters are fine, then so there's no limiting factor in terms of nutrients or chemical needs, then higher temperatures will surely equate to faster growth.
Yes.
That would be my, you know, the way the biological processes work.
But if you do increase the temperature, then yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, heat is energy.
Yeah, so and that's what I sort of started to realise about a year ago when I couldn't get the temperature down from 29 with the T5s. I mean, I was never going to let it go into 30s, and I went on to the LEDs, and I just started, like I keep repeating myself, it's like a bit of a stuck record. I apologise for people that keep hearing this, but you know, what I started researching, well, what is the you know, the downside of running a tank at 27, 28 degrees? And the more I read about it,
I think once again, it would be one of those things where they probably picked 25 because the other thing is, you got to remember, it's the water volume.
Yeah.
So you could probably run your tank as you do at 27, 28, perfectly happy. I wouldn't imagine someone like Jay with his nano, if he tried to run it at because the margin of error is small amount of water, because you do
the fluctuation.
One, it's fluctuation, and two, he can't get that sort of movement, that agitation on the surface of your tank that you got there. He wouldn't be able to get that in his tank without it splashing, because he just hadn't got the volume, the surface area to do it. So
you've got to have that with warmer temperature.
Yeah, so maybe that's why the 25 was picked, because for the average size tank that a reefer has, that's going to be the best sort of envelope to aim for.
I also think it's the number that is the safest for people to have mixed species.
Yeah, I get the scholars and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's where that's come from.
I still think they adapt, though, to be honest. Like the Scollies and that, they're a bit harder, aren't they? I mean, I kept my Scollie in my first tank at 27 for 5 years.
Did you? Wow. Yeah.
Never had any issues. Kept, everything. Kept the torches in there at that. So I do think they can adapt. But yeah. So I've gone off on a temperature tangent now.
No, I'm glad. Honestly, I think people should look at temperature more than they do. I think they just take it as the tank's at 25, so it's all right. But you're right. I think you can achieve a lot more if you look at upping it within a certain range. Again, you're right to say that. Right to point out, though, depending on the size of your tank.
Well, I think it could make a difference, the size of the tank. But I also think it makes the temperatures, beside the coral thing, I think it makes a big difference to fish as well, in fish behaviour.
Oh God, yeah.
And I think temperamental, well, they're not really temperamental, but fish that are considered difficult, I think it's more important, like copper bands would be a classic example. I think it's more important to get the temperature right for those finicky feeding fish, because if you lower the temperature, obviously you lower their whole metabolism. And if they are finicky feeders anyway, so you've got a copper band in, if you're running your tank at 26, 27, it's all the fish are livelier. They've got more energy. All the processes are running quicker. So even though he's got to feed more, he's going to be more active. Or she's going to be more active. The fish is going to be more active. And I just think if you drop those temperatures down for fish like copper bands into the 24 range, and you're already kind of struggling to get that fish to feed, or it's a bit underweight, you're going in the wrong direction in terms of trying to stimulate it, give it energy, and want it to feed.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So and I just think, I just think spawning behaviour. I mean, these fish don't. The simple fact for me is those fish don't live at 25 degrees. I've never ever dived on the reef at 25 degrees.
Well, that brings us into this question that Johnny Boy is asking.
Basically, I just said it. Yeah, I mean, most of the reefs I dive on, the coldest it will be is 27.
Wow. And whereabouts is that in the world?
Well, I do a lot of Bali, a lot of Indonesia. So I've done Bali, Thailand, Java. I've done a load in the Maldives. I've done Mauritius. All of those.
Lived a sheltered life, haven't you?
It's tough. It's been tough. But yeah, so if I looked at all of the, because you wear a computer, basically it tells you your surface temperature, and it will tell you, it logs the whole dive, and it will tell you the temperature through the whole profile of your dive, so I can look through. So so they're clever bits of kit, and then you can get an average basically, and the average actually across all of the dives I've done, it came out at something like 29.8 or something like that. It was high.
Crikey. Wow.
Yeah, they are high. And as I said, I've never dived in water 25 ever. Not on a coral reef. Yeah. So those fish are not used to 25 degrees. They will get possibly times of the year, depending where they came from, it may dip. But if you look at the sea surface temperatures in Bali, even when it dips, it doesn't get anywhere near 25.
Honestly, that paper I read, I need to try and dig it out. So a few people have asked me to send them the link. It's about 14 pages long, so it's not as short. These are, and some of it you have to read 3 or 4 times for it to make sense. But that's what the scientists are all saying. These are scientists. These are hobbyists that have just passed on a little bit of knowledge. Yeah. These are people that spend their whole careers out in the ocean collecting data.
Yeah, as I was saying, I do wonder though if that temperature is curtailed by the physical limitations of having a box of water.
Yes. Yeah.
So I can understand why maybe people go 25 safer. Yeah. You get more oxygen in your water at lower temperatures and higher temperatures.
Lower temperatures, yes.
And that comes back, the fact that the top of your tank is boiling away is not achievable for all people. So maybe,
no.
I'm not going to say low temperatures, but I class 25 as the bottom end. Unless depends what you're keeping, obviously. If you're keeping,
of course it does.
Deep water antheas and scollies and something, then you could probably get down to 23s and that. But I think the vast majority of people, and I know the argument is they go, well, scollies and torches like lower temperatures, but most people in a mixed reef have more hard stony corals than anything else. So I think you could bump
Lee's suggesting you should go and have a dive in Skegness.
Yeah, it'd be nice. You probably wouldn't see my hand in front of my face.
Oh dear. So anything else we could think about? I'm conscious we're in for an hour and 20, so we'll give it 10 more minutes and then we'll wrap it up at the hour and a half mark.
No, I think.
Any other comments that people say that you make you sort of chuckle?
I mean, the one thing I've noticed, which is going to be, don't know, I should say it out loud, is I find there seems to be. I find a lot of people that are obsessed with SPS and corals.
Naming them.
No, they have some really ropey looking fish in their tank. So I watch videos.
Okay.
So when I watch a video, someone shows me their tank, because I'm a fish person, I
look at the fish.
I look at the fish first. So my sort of criteria of, because let's face it, when you look at someone's tank, even if you do it subconsciously, you're kind of gauging what you think of them as a reefer. You just do it, don't you? And when you look at a tank, you go, does he know what he's doing? Does the tank look reasonable? And my first port of call when I'm sort of doing that is I look at the fish, and I want to see healthy fish. I don't want to see emaciated fish. I don't want to see lateral line erosion. I don't want to see any eye flukes, cloudy eyes. Just a nice, happy fish. And I see so many people put in their tank, and they don't even talk about the fish. They just talk about all of the corals. And then you'll see some, half emaciated tang swim by that doesn't look like it's been fed for a month or something. and I see it more than I want to. And there's other. I mean, even when you went to Jake Adams' Reef Builders, and you used to watch his videos. And
I did.
He used to have the tangs with the eroded dorsal things on. Like, he had some yellow tangs with those stunted. I mean, he knew that there was a problem, but he didn't know what it was. And I was just thinking, I wonder if that's a nutritional thing, because a lot of SPS reefers are very bang on their nutrients, aren't they? I mean, I've never agreed with the fact when, starving fish basically is what some people would say when they want to bring their nitrates down or their phosphates down, and that's not an approach I would ever take. I think there's so many other mechanisms that are better, but obviously some people do that, and they think if I've got a hungry tang, he's going to do a better job of getting all the algae out of my tank and keeping my frog plugs clean. But some of the fish just look ropey to me. So that's one of the things I've noticed about a lot of YouTube videos with SPS dominant, sort of, whether they're sellers or just people displaying their SPS tanks. And I just think, I mean, I've made
see a lot. I do
people about
fish. I agree. I agree. I've seen a lot of tanks where again SPS ones, and it's all about the corals, and there's like 2 fish in there. Yeah. So the nutrient levels can be as low as possible. But going back to the subject of today, it's not natural, is it? Because there's always going to be, a group of fish, and there's always going to be an abundance of food for them. We also dictate what we put in our tank, don't we? Whereas in the ocean, it's already there.
Exactly. Yeah. And what's the best food for your corals comes out the back end of your fish, really.
Fish. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way it works. If you want to follow that nature route, then that is it. You don't need to be putting all those various powders and chemicals and what have you in there.
No,
I've never fed any of my corals, really. I just let the fish do it.
Feed the fish and let the fish do it. Yeah. Natural fertilizer.
Yeah. I mean, I understand if you haven't got any fish in the system, then fair enough. If you're, farming is a whole different kettle of fish, really, than being a hobbyist, isn't it? So, what they do is different. But for the average tank, so it's just one of the things I've noticed that a lot of people that seem to be really good at growing the amazing SPS, the fish are almost like an afterthought. I think they become so obsessed with the corals, they kind of almost forget about the fish.
Yeah. Interesting point.
So when you look at someone's tank, what's the first thing you look at? Is it the fish, or is it just the corals? Or
I think I will look at corals because I like corals. I like my sticks. But I will definitely also look at the fish. I mean, I think majority of people will pick fish based on them doing a job. I think as opposed to colour. I think in your earlier days of reef, in your earlier days of reefing, you'll go colour because you're like, oh, I like that, or named, or because you, like I say, Nemo, whatever, Dory. But I think that you'll get to a point where you'll realise that it is not a problem solver, but it's a added benefit having utilitarian fish, you know, for certain reasons. So I think you tend to find you'll tend to find a lot of common fish, is what I'm saying, based on that. So a lot of people will have a wrasse or will have a tang.
They do make life easier, don't they?
Yeah,
you know, they make your life easier by taking care of stuff that you don't want to do manually yourself. It's like Haley's just said.
First course fish.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot that I think there's a lot of people that'll have it's not different because they're both animals, but it's a bigger an issue when you lose a fish than it is when you lose a coral, because you don't have that emotional attachment, do you, of you know, even though it's an animal.
But fish are sort of more sentient, aren't they, than the corals? I mean, they interact with their environment, which is more relatable for us. I mean, anyone who looks at a tank who's not a reefer of any description doesn't look at a coral as an animal, do they? They always think it's a plant. So, and we treat them pretty much the same as we do plants, don't we? We take cuttings and, you know, we place them where we want them and they can't move. So they are very similar. So it's difficult for people that are not sort of a favour the hobby to go, that's actually an animal. And they're like, is it?
Yeah. Trying to explain it. Yeah,
but as I said earlier, you know, I can quite easily just chop a coral up and just bin it, and I don't feel any sentimental loss for it. I mean, it's different if you've grown it from a frag and you've had it for years or whatever. But you know, if you're just doing a bit of routine trimming, I don't go, oh my god, I've just killed a piece of an animal as it's sitting in the bin. You just toss it and forget it, really, don't you? So they don't have that same.
And fingers crossed it grows back. And you can obviously with corals it's different. Things can grow back, and unfortunately, when a fish has died, it can't grow back. You know.
I mean, this is the interesting point that Than from Tyler Gardens makes when he talks about fish, because he says growing corals is easy, keeping fish is difficult. And that's a weighted comment, but there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah.
You know, fish can be really difficult long term. You know, if you have certain species, whereas corals, basically, you know, if it's growing and it's happy, you keep the water parameters reasonably decent, most of them are just going to sit and grow, aren't they?
Yeah, I do. I'd have to agree on that. I think. I think about the money more than I do about anything else with a coral when it's died. Whereas a fish, I you know what? I couldn't tell you what I paid for any of these fish because you know I've got a rough idea, but I couldn't say it was $79.99 for example.
I've got a couple.
Whereas I'm pretty much. Well, I pretty much could do that with the frags.
Everyone. I've got a few fish and a few pieces of coral which I'm patently aware of how much I paid for, just because it's
it's eye-watering amount of money. I think when you get attached to them, I think that the money, you know, I mean, the only one I do know is the yellow tan, because I was going about it because of how much they are. Excuse me now, as opposed to when I got that.
Yeah, when you first used to get them.
When I first used to get them, so I remember that. But now, right? I think we're going to wrap it up there, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday morning.
Thanks, Rob, very much.
Again for coming in. We'll try and get on again next Sunday and come up with something. If there's anything that you'd like us to talk about or anything subjective, please drop a comment below. Me and Rob will look at the majority and we'll go from there. But enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everybody. Hope you've had a good morning with us, and we'll speak to you all. No problem. We'll see you all next week. Cheers.